Hello everyone and welcome to this SQL for Absolute Beginners course. Thank you so much for enrolling in this course. So here we are going to learn a ton about this language called SQL, where we will learn how we can manipulate data and build better manipulation techniques to work with data back and forth. I hope you have a good time in this course and that you learn a lot. The most important thing is that throughout the course, if you have any question, don't hesitate to send me a message here on Udemy. I'll be happy to support you in your learning. So a bit about myself, I'll be your teacher for this course. I was the one that created and envisioned this SQL course for absolute beginners. I have around 9 years of experience in data science roles, and I've been working with SQL in the past probably 15 years, counting also with my college education where I also programmed with SQL. I'm based in Lisbon, Portugal. I started more in ETL databases, so stuff more regarding data engineering. Then I moved into a data science role, and now I work at their data engineering, where I'm a partner in this Portuguese startup where we help to set up data science and machine learning systems, and most of our data pipelines are of course done in SQL. About the areas where I've worked on, mostly retail and banking throughout my career, and then as a consultant I've worked for multiple industries, because of course that's in the basis of a consultant, to work for multiple industries at the same time. So what were the motivations for me to build this course? Well, first, I wanted to help professionals to power up their data managing skills and have this language that is really flexible and it can be used around multiple systems. You can be working in Python and call some SQL code. You can be working in R and call some SQL code. You can be working in, for example, application development, and you need to know how to work with SQL. That's something really common every time you have to query some databases, or at least to insert data into specific databases. This is like a really transversal skill throughout the data world, if I can call it in this way. And the most important part is that most data professionals understand SQL. So it's really a common language that everyone can understand. Even though there are small parts of the code that people don't understand that the other part is doing, for example, data engineering and data science, SQL is normally the common ground that everyone understands, and that helps also professionals to be a bit more empathetic in their daily lives and also helping others understanding their issues. Another motivation is, of course, to help people have a gentle introduction into SQL. We are going to start from scratch, like really from the beginning, assuming you have no prior knowledge in this course. That's why it's for absolute beginners. That was one of the main motivations. Then I want also to help engineers and scientists and data engineers and data scientists to integrate this language into their data pipelines. We can, of course, as data engineers and data scientists, do things in Python, R, or Spark, for example, but SQL is also a great tool to have under our tool belt so that we can use it when we think it's appropriate, and particularly when we have SQL interfaces with databases. So here is my LinkedIn and their data's website, my company's website. I'll leave them in the resources for you to check. Also add me on LinkedIn. I'll be super happy to have you as a connection. Okay, so what is SQL? Well, SQL is a domain-specific language that is used to program and is designed to manage and query data. We'll understand what this means, of course, throughout the practical lectures, but mostly SQL is used as a language to be specific for data manipulation. It's not a language to build applications, it's not a language to build algorithms like Python or R, it's not that, it's assumed to be a language for manipulating data, querying and extracting data. So it works especially well with structured data, rows and columns, with new formats such as the tensor format in computer vision. It's not that good to work with it, but most use cases, of course, also in machine learning are with tabular data. So it's a really cool way for us to manipulate data. Consists of several statements. We'll learn, of course, the most important ones throughout the course, but it's most a language that is organized around several statements such as select, from, group by, and we'll understand that in the coming lectures. And then one of the cool things is that it may be integrated inside other languages, such as Python or R. So SQL is a more broader term for several implementations. There are different implementations with MySQL, PostgreSQL, Microsoft SQL, or Transact SQL, the T-SQL. All of them are really common between them. They have small differences in the syntax, but the overall implementation is basically the same. So the way that you organize code and what specific instructions do. So there's not a major shift between all these implementations. If you learn, for example, as we are going to learn here, MySQL, you will be ready to jump to other implementations, because with a small Google search you can find the instruction or the parallel instruction that you know for these other implementations, and the logic is always the same basically. A cool thing is that SQL is around for almost 50 years, if not more than that, I think. It's a language that is probably going nowhere in the near and mid-term future, even in the long-term future, because it's so widely used by data professionals out there that it would need a really great scientific advancement in this area for SQL to be substituted, but as it is simple, effective, and even well understood by people that are not coding every day in other languages, it's a standard in the industry, and it continues to show its strength throughout the last 50 years because if you think about it, there have been a lot of technological advancements, even with cloud infrastructure, with machine learning and data science, and all the other stuff regarding the data industry. That SQL, I think, is probably one of the few things that continue to have a lot of power and a lot of market share in terms of the coding languages. So it's not expected that it goes anywhere in the next 10 to 20 years. Okay, so a cool thing about the learning journey in SQL is that learning SQL can help you in all of these areas and more. These are just the ones that I've remembered at least, which are data science, data analysis, data visualization, and also database administration / data engineering. So in all of these areas, you probably will use SQL, or you can use SQL to power up something. And that's something extremely cool. If you learn SQL, you'll be prepared to do tasks in all of these areas. Of course, by learning SQL, you'll not become automatically a data scientist. That's not what's expected, and I would be lying you if I would say so. But even so, it's a really important task for data scientists to have, because mostly as a data scientist, for example, you'll not have your data fully ranked and arranged for your models. You will need probably to access some databases or and do some queries to retrieve some data. And if you have SQL knowledge, that will be extremely good for you. And of course, after this course, you will finally close the debate on either you call SQL or SQL. That's, of course, the most important discussion here in the industry. Now, I'm joking, of course not. You can call it however you want. It's a hot topic if you call it SQL or SQL, but honestly, it doesn't matter for the learning. Okay, so what will we learn and approach in this course? This is the first version of the course, okay? So probably when you are doing this course, it may be that we have more sections than these. So first we'll learn, of course, to install MySQL and load a database called the SQL database so that we have our environment ready. Then we'll spend a lot of time doing basic querying, so starting from scratch, understanding the most important statements. Then we'll work around data types. Data types are transversal to other languages, and you really need to understand them so that you can also work better here with databases. After that, a really exciting part, creating and modifying our own tables. Then we'll go and combine tables between themselves, which is a really cool skill also here in SQL. Finally, we'll do a bit more advanced stuff where we'll compound on knowledge that we've learned throughout the last sections. And this one will be extremely interesting because I think that there will be a small aha moment here when you'll see how we can combine several instructions that we've learned into a single one and how flexible the language is. Okay, so learning loop will start here. What we'll have is lectures where you'll code along with me, seeing the instructions and learning at the same time. Then we'll have some quizzes where you'll put your knowledge to the test. And finally, of course, a use case and programming exercises that will help you to consolidate the knowledge because that's, of course, one of the most important parts that you need to do so that you can grasp the language and understand what we are doing. There's nothing that can substitute learning by doing, of course. And by the end of the course, you should know how to comfortably use SQL to manipulate data. The most important things that I would like to pinpoint that you will know is retrieving data from tables, for example, using filter statements, just retrieving some columns as an example. Then you learn how to combine data, here exemplified in this join that will understand what it is. Then we learn how to create our own tables, our own table structure, and also how to insert our own data into specific tables. And finally, you'll be able to basically build a data pipeline from top to bottom, or at least understand how you can create tables and compound on several instructions. And that's it for the introduction of this course. I'm excited to have you here, and I hope you enjoy this course as much as I've enjoyed doing it. Now, let's go forward and start by installing, of course, the software that we will use, which is MySQL. Again, this is one of the implementations that we have on SQL. There are more of them. The good part is that MySQL is completely free because it's an open source framework, so you don't have to pay absolutely anything to install it in our machines. So let's go forward. I hope you're excited, and I'll see you in the next lecture.